Penguin Random House Audio presents The President and the Frog. This is the author, Carolina de Robertis. To each of you who've ever felt despair. Amor y ánimo. We live in a marvelous world, but we can't always see its marvels. José Mujica, former president of Uruguay, 2017. Dionysus. Go on, keep croaking, I don't care. Chorus of frogs. We'll croak on till our throats wear out, we'll croak all day. Dionysus. Brek-kek-kek-keks, quacks, quacks, you never beat me in this play. Chorus of frogs. And you've no chance to win your way, not matched with us. Aristophanes, The Frogs, 405 BC. The President and the Frog. Once upon a time, in a near-forgotten country, on a certain mid-November afternoon, an old man sat at his kitchen table and listened for the world beyond. No cars, not yet. Only a breeze rattling the window pane and the song of a single stubborn thrush. The reporters would be here any moment, with their arms full of equipment and their heads full of questions, looking the way reporters usually did in the old man's house, amazed, disoriented, as if they had just landed in some unmapped corner of the planet. As if it were some miracle, him in a ramshackle home, as if, and this was the part that tickled him most, as if he were a normal man. It was strange how stunned they were, no matter how thoroughly they had researched and prepared, no matter how much they already knew about the so-called poorest president in the world, a man who'd led his country while living in a place, well, like this. Could it be true? This house, right here? There must be some mistake. They'd pulled up to the wrong gate. It couldn't have been these four walls that he chose over the presidential palace. How could anyone run a country from a humble farmhouse at the edge of town, more hut than house, by the standards of some of the countries from which they had flown? Why would anyone even attempt to lead from such a place? Why, for that matter, would anyone donate more than half their salary to charity, especially as president? There had to be a reason other than what the public had heard so far. And so they often opened with questions about it, tinged with disbelief as well as an amusing kind of hubris, as if they really thought they were the first to ask, as if by asking they could dig up some truth so buried it had never seen the sun. A common first question was, why? Why live the way you do? There had been so many interviews throughout the presidency, and even now that it was over. He'd thought it would abate once his term ended, but the requests had not let up. He'd had to become more discerning, but still, he wouldn't stop. Not yet. Not until he had to. Because there was so much, always, left to do. He watched a few specks of dust dance in a slant of light, just above the cluttered kitchen counter. So much dust. He'd wiped all the counters this morning, not under all the jars and bottles and cups that congregated exuberantly there, but still he'd wiped around them, and he'd swept the slightly uneven floorboards, yet here they were again, specks of dust, floating languidly as if time belonged to them. An engine outside. He approached the front door. Yes, there they were, out at the gate. A van. Two of them this time, a man and a woman, from Germany, or was it Sweden? He couldn't remember now. His calendar was so full they'd all started to bleed together, and in any case, a welcome to them all. These two seemed young, limber. They were busy disembarking and gathering equipment and hadn't yet seen him in the doorway. The spring air was lovely, the warmest so far, that kind of November sun that flirts with your skin, coy about the summer to come. A good day for an interview in the garden. He had suggested the garden, politely, but really that was the only place. Usually, with two of them and the camera to set up on a stand, there wasn't enough space in the combined kitchen and attached living room. And anyway, they were never satisfied by the interior light. No sweeping vistas here. Ha! Not even close. Nothing like the majestic windows and fancy molding in the official presidential residence of his own country, or of countries he had visited as head of state. But despite that, or more accurately, for that very reason, he knew they'd want to see the inside of his house and get their own footage. Direct images of, "Look, can you believe it? Breaking news! The way an old man lives." And really, he thought to himself, regardless of what they say, that's all you are, an old man. The reporter said something to the cameraman, then looked up and caught the ex-president's eye. She smiled with genuine pleasure and waved. She was wearing sneakers, no high heels, a sensible and poised woman in her early 40s, perhaps, older than the cameraman with his broad shoulders and shaggy hair and a look about him like one of those surfer types who seemed to always long for the bobbing waves, while she looked more like, say, an elementary school principal, warm and eagle-eyed. There were interviews, and then there were interviews. And this reporter, he realized, watching her start up the path toward him, would not be one of the predictable ones who lingered in the shallows. She might not be the kind to start with that common question, the one about the house, the way he lived, that why. She might start at the end, or in the middle, with the disastrous recent election in North America, a catastrophe only just beginning to send its ripples into the world along with questions surely on the tips of many journalists' tongues, such as, how the hell do we carry on? What will it mean? What now? Or maybe she would start all the way back in prehistoric times, his guerrilla years, his prison years. Perhaps that other popular question, which was, how? How did you survive it and become, well, you? A kind of dive right into deeper waters. She would be capable of that. The smart ones often took that route, thinking it gave them more time to burrow around the ocean floor in search of secrets to pry open. As if secrets were the pearls inside of oysters, held in crusty shells, and he himself was a crusty old geezer after all, so why not? They fancied themselves pearl divers, the kind you read about in other countries who knifed down and tapped on shell after shell. There was a name for them. What was it? He couldn't remember. Not the first word to slip his mind this week, damn it. But what could he do? At least he was still sharp enough for a lot of things, and in any case, whatever they were called, that was how they did it, the Pearl people, tapping with their fingertips, while reporters went about it with their questions. Tap, tap. What's in there? He didn't want to be tapped at anymore. Not today, he thought, with a hint of panic, which startled him, because what did it matter? He knew how to do this. He could do it in his sleep. And anyway, there was nothing special to be found, was there? What secrets could this German or Swedish, maybe, woman walking toward him be after? What could be left to pry open in him? Surely she knew better than to think she could uncover something new. He was done with all that. He'd been bearing himself for years now. He was 82 years old, full of creaks and aches and bullet wounds that itched with the turning of the weather. He had told all his stories and answered
Sample complete. Ready to continue?